Hello, 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 um, and welcome to the channel. I'm so psyched you're here. Trying to get my stuff set up because it looks really kind of strange today for some reason. But I'm thinking technology is kind of acting weird, not sure why, but it just is. So here we are. Welcome. And today I want to talk to you about being in the middle of the eclipse portal. So we had our opening eclipse on the 12th, and we will have the closing eclipse on the 26th. And it's almost like the energy of those moons, like you always think to yourself, oh, a new moon is when we set intentions, and a full moon is when we release and we have gratitude and find the harvest and blah, blah, blah. It feels like, and I've shared this with my moon circle group, it feels like the poles of that have been shifted, if you will. Anyway, so I wanted to kind of jump in and talk about this week about being in the middle of that, flip flop, in the middle of that eclipse season. So the invitation for this whole thing has been stuff that we've been working on for probably a couple of years now. And I've been talking about it. Other people in the woo-woo space have been talking about the whole releasing all the things so that you can step more fully into your authentic self. This invitation for this specific space in between the eclipses and part of like that eclipse portal that is currently open is an invitation to finally allow that rubber to meet the road, to where you've done all that work and now you're stepping into that authentic version of you. You've been doing all this work to release old programming, old traumas, old behaviors, limiting beliefs that we all talk about all the time that block you from manifesting all the stuff you want. So whether you know what those are or not, it doesn't really matter. You just need to be willing to release the tension when you feel it come up in situations. And all that releasing has been well worth it. So all the crying, all the, I'm just letting myself feel things and all that kind of stuff and stepping closer and closer to that authentic version of you that is being called forward now as we go through this portal. And as we're walking towards the end of the portal, which is on the 26th, and then the door opens and you're invited, that authentic version of you is invited to walk through and leave everything else behind and move towards whatever it is that you're supposed to move towards over the next several years. Because and I see a lot of people talking about like the two timelines that are splitting. And I think what's going to happen is you're going to have the two timelines splitting in the sense of people who are stepping into that authentic version of themselves and people who are still trying to live from other people's expectations, and meaning not just people that are close to you, but like the world, your society, your whatever country you choose to live in, governmental whatevers, all that kind of stuff. Not to say, I'm not saying go be mean or break a law or any of that. What I'm saying is there's like this expectation of what a good person should be based on all of these parameters. And that doesn't necessarily, work with everybody because everyone's different and everyone needs to show up with as who they are. So I'll get into what all that looks like in a minute. But when that full moon / lunar eclipse happens on the 27th, that's when the door is going to be like the end of the tunnel that we're in right now is going to open. And you're going to be asked, do you want to step through and leave it all behind and be that authentic version of you? Because when that timeline splits, those who choose different from that, they're going to have a really hard time because dragging all that stuff around is really heavy and it won't help. And they'll end up being where you are if you choose to walk through with the authentic. They'll end up in their authentic selves just way further down the road. And in that idea of when you're supposed to be doing something or supposed to be somewhere and you keep fighting it, the universe just drags you along, or you can get up and walk with the universe yourself. One is easier than the other, but this you're going to see. So there's just not going to be enough room in your capacity and your bandwidth anymore to drag all that stuff around. And I know there's a lot of talk about all of that, about the authentic version of you and what what we need to do with that and how we need to be that and all that stuff. But nobody's really talking about what does that really mean? Like, what does that mean for you? What does that mean? So I kind of came up with three things that would help you stepping into the new version of you, that authentic version of you. And I'm not saying these are easy. I'm not saying that you're not going to be like, well, what will people think of me? Like that thought process has to go. This just has to happen. So, number one, stop performing. Stop performing, especially for those you love. So, doing things because they're right or nice or polite, um, when in essence, all you're doing is really people pleasing. I'm not saying be mean or do the wrong thing or make bad choices or, or any of that. What I am saying is really get honest with yourself and ask yourself, am I being nice, right, and polite because I want to please somebody else or because it's what I feel is what I want to do? Um, it doesn't say be rude or knock somebody over while you're trying to get something. It's just really being clear with yourself about what you want and then expressing that to those around you so that everybody's on the same page. That's what being kind is, and being kind to yourself and being kind to others. So example, when I was in Sicily and we were on retreat, one of the things that the retreat leader said was like, we're going to have this rule and we're going to have silent mornings. I, at first, and I think everyone there at first was like, how do you even do that? Because like it was put forth like, I know you're going to want to make eye contact and chat and say good morning and stuff like that, but that's all programming. It is programming because you think the minute you wake up and you face the world, any other human you immediately come in contact with, you're supposed to make feel comfortable at your own expense. And the fact is that's not true. And so for the first couple of days, it was really uncomfortable to see the other ladies that we were, that, you had just bonded with and, um, and not say good morning to them. It was so strange. And it was really challenging for me and for some other folks to do that because you really kind of want to make sure you're like, "Oh, if I see somebody, I want to say good morning." When in actuality, it's okay to just be in silence and just kind of in your mind acknowledge their presence and do what you came to do. And by like the fourth day, it was great. Like nobody was expected to perform like any sort of good morning ritual. We all just kind of were in our own silence, in our own space. We would even sit at a table eating like a little snack for breakfast, and everybody would just be there and just be. And nobody thought anybody else was being rude. Nobody took offense to it. And everybody just was in their own space until probably like right around lunchtime because it just gave you that time to hear your own thoughts, to not have to, perform for somebody else. And literally, it is a performance because usually in the morning, you just want to drink your coffee and think about, like, where am I? What am I doing? What is my day like? Is there anything I need to think about this morning? Or maybe have a silent prayer moment or meditation. And, sometimes you want to do that sitting next to people, but without having to perform for them. So that's number one. Number two is stop identifying yourself by external stuff. And by this, I mean like your zodiac sign, your human design, your Enneagram, your Myers-Briggs. Like when we start taking tests or labeling or any of that stuff, you start to think in the parameters of this external label. So, for example, I'm a Virgo. And so part of being a Virgo, and we generally kind of lean towards the downside of things. It's like, oh, well, I'm a control freak. So therefore I am allowed, it's my excuse to act like, that it's okay that I'm being control freaky, which annoys other people. And that's not true. It they're not, those things are not there for you to use as excuses so that you don't have to engage with yourself. They're there really more as a weather report so you can decide how to maneuver through life. So, and it's also like in the instance of your zodiac sign. So there are certain high vibrational things and low vibrational things. And the low vibrational things are there so you can learn them. They're part of your soul contract. So learning how to let people just be, that's part of mine. And so instead of using the control freakness as an excuse, as, oh, well, I'm a Virgo, so you're just going to have to deal with this. It's like, no, I need to deal with it. I need to navigate it. That is my like it's literally people say, nobody gives you a manual. Well, if you look at it like that, actually, yeah, they do. You come in as a certain sign, look at your low vibrational things. That's your manual of here's your lesson plan. That's really it. Um, and when you stop allowing those external labels to dictate, or you use them as an excuse so that you don't have to deal with your own stuff, that's when you kind of step into your authenticity and you take your power back, because now you're saying, oh, well, if that's my lesson, I'm going to go learn my lesson. That's being in charge. That's not giving up your agency to some, ancient art form or some psychological test or something. It's just a weather report so that you know what you need to do. And then third, stop trying to be the version of you that other people think you are. So this was interesting. A friend of mine, and I think I mentioned this last time, and it stuck with me because I was like, it's not something you can really navigate. Like you can't control. You can't control what other people say or share. Just like you can't control situations, but you can control how you navigate the situation. So when somebody says something to you like, well, I didn't expect you to do that, or I didn't think that you were that kind of person, or that you like this kind of music, or whatever, it's kind of an indicator that they have a version of you in their head, and you're not living up to their version. Not you're not living up to your potential, not you're not doing you, or you're not good enough. It's they have a version in their head and they're expecting you to act like the version in their head. And when you don't, that elicits one of two reactions. Either they lean in because they're like, oh, this is fascinating. You're not who I thought you were. In fact, you're better and let's talk about it. Or they're like, no, I need you to get back in my box. And if you don't, I'm going to leave. Those are the two things. And so, and the funny thing is when you just keep being yourself, you end up making space from the people that are like, I'm out because you're not being who I think you should be. And you make more space for the people that want to come in because they're fascinated by who you really are. So those are the three ways I think when we talk about how to be our authentic selves, how to step into that invitation that is this eclipse season. Those three things will give you kind of a parameter of what does that look like? And maybe like give you some insight into where you could say to yourself, like before, because I know a lot of times, again, part of like the Virgo thing is we try to question what are the steps to do something, or how do you do this the right way? And the funny thing is there is no right way. There's never been a right way to do any of this. It's just what is the way that feels most soul aligned for you. And the reason I put out three things is these are the three things that I have identified for me, and maybe they help you, that help me to remember who I really am and who am I. And these are three things I gauge. Am I acting like somebody else wants me to act, or am I doing what I want to do? Or am I performing, or am I being me? Like that kind of stuff. So these are just three situations that I wanted to share with you because I think they're important. They were important and helpful for me. So maybe they'd be important and helpful for you as you navigate the second half of this eclipse. So let's pull some cards. So we're going to ask the cards, what do we need to know to help us through the second half of this eclipse? And I'm going to use the Colette Baron-Reid Spirit Animal cards this time because this is a rough eclipse, y'all. Like I have gotten people saying to me they just feel angry. I don't know if it's they're feeling a little bit better now, but in the beginning there was a lot of anger, a lot, because of a lot of stuff was coming up for releasing. And it was like stuff that creates anger is like the stuff that we don't ever want to deal with, because there's anger is like just a self-protective blanket put over fear. So whatever it is, and I've had people saying, well, I don't even know what it is. I just know I'm upset about it. And I can't even think in my past what it was. Well, you know what? Our brains are always in the present moment. So and if you can't remember it, there's a reason. There's a reason why. And it's probably because it's a self-preservation. Your brain doesn't want to go back to whatever that was. And because it may have been very hurtful, may be traumatizing, what have you. But it's okay to not know and still release something. You don't always have to you don't have to get into analyzation mode to release something. Okay. It's just, you kind of just say, whatever this is, I'm choosing to release it. Whatever's causing this, I choose to release it. And I forgive myself. I forgive I forgive anybody that needs forgiveness, including myself, so that I can move on in this. Like, that's the best part of all of this, is you don't have to relive something and re-traumatize yourself to get past it. So, and to process. So what do we need to know to help us through the second half of this eclipse season? And I'm going to invite you to pick 1, 2, or 3. And then when I pull the cards, if you picked 1, that's your answer, and so on and so on. And then if all of them resonate, then the whole message that creates the story of the message is for you and for everybody. And if you're watching this and it's past August of 2026, then the messages are still for you. Okay. So just, oh, that is so funny. Okay. Yes. Boop, boop, a doo. Yes. Okay. I love that. Our first card, this is so interesting. So the opening eclipse, which was a new moon and solar eclipse, was in Leo. That's our first card, is Lion Spirit. I guess we're excited about this. I don't know how that works when you do the different things and the balloons go, but okay, I guess Spirit's good. It says, be generous of spirit, Lion Spirit. And we're also talking about fire, which is like manifestation. It's the knowing who you are. It's really being self-possessed. And be generous of spirit with yourself, because stepping into your authentic self is not super easy. It sounds really easy, but it's not, because you have a lot of folks that are still tied to that old thought process of, oh, be nice, be polite, do the right thing, like all that kind of stuff. And by that, I don't mean you're going to go out and break laws or be mean to people and be rude. That's not what I'm talking about. It's containing yourself in a way that is not supportive of you. And being around people that are trying to mold you to make them feel comfortable versus you doing what makes you feel good. And it's funny. I've been watching the Gilmore Girls from season 1 on, and it's just interesting to watch that dynamic, because if you've watched the show, it's all about how every generation of these women are trying to be more themselves, more who they are, and they are all so vastly different. And the generations before them, like the grandparent generation, is very upset that nobody of their progeny is living how they would like them to live, and the rest of everybody's just like doing what they're doing because it makes them happy. And it's just an interesting commentary, if you will, on what's going on right now. So Lion Spirit, be generous of spirit. This to me says, be generous with your spirit for yourself, for you, because this is all an internal thing. This opened up with Leo even though it was a new moon, but it was solar eclipse. So it's like a double new moon kind of, where you're super inside, but you're looking at yourself in the mirror, as opposed to, saying, hey, here I am. This is looking, before you shine your light out, you need to know what that looks like. So really getting clear on what being authentically you means, and be generous with yourself, be graceful with yourself, because it's not like you just make the list and go do it. It's a lot of navigation that happens there. So that's card number 1. Card number 2 is Grasshopper. So number 2 is, this is take a leap of faith. And I love how our grasshopper has a crown on, because it's very similar to the whole energy of the Leo spirit, or the Lion Spirit. But it's take a leap of faith, knowing that that universe has your back, everything's gonna be okay. So when we have those thoughts of, like, the first thought is, oh, I want to be this, and the second thought is, what is everyone else going to think? It's okay, because people will be there to catch you. It may not be the people you think, but they will be there to catch you and to be there to support you. And it'll probably be other people that are walking that same journey with you. So take the leap of faith and know that you're going to be okay when you start acting from a place of authenticity. And then lastly, I think it's interesting, we have Turkey Spirit, but she comes in upside down, which is I didn't know that. I forgot that I knew that. And I know that, but I'm being a whiny baby. And I honestly think this is a fear one. This is a I didn't know that and I forgot that I knew that. It says give with gratitude and grace. And but it's upside down. So it's like I am worried so much about what everyone else is going to think. I'm not giving myself the grace and the gratitude that I need when I step into authenticity, or I'm not seeing the benefit of those things. Because when you're authentic with yourself, you're going to give yourself more gratitude. You're going to say, well, I'm going to give myself credit for this. I'm so grateful that I chose to do this, and give yourself grace because it's messy. You're a human being. Messy is the human experience. So doing all of this, stepping further and further down the road of authenticity, grace and gratitude are going to be your best buddy. It's just that you're not seeing that yet. So that's the number 3 card. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this kind of helps you traverse the next, I guess, week and a half that we have left of our eclipse season right now. And again, as I said in the last one, it's almost like you're not going to recognize who you are at the end. When you close that door on the eclipses, you're going to look back 3 weeks and be like, oh my gosh, who was that person? Who was that person? Because, and you'll still love them. It's just, you're going to be like, wow, was that really me? So I think this is helpful. I hope it was helpful. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll see you next week. But until next time, I'll see you in the vortex. Happy manifesting. Bye.